successful, totally abandons the ideological overtones of Bruce Lee's original multi-level concept. The other 49 minutes of footage, which Lee had shot back in '72, is believed lost to the ravages of time, and so reluctantly, fans around the world reconcile themselves to the fact that they will never see the expanded storyline from The Game of Death as Lee intended. But then, 21 years later, the impossible happens. In 1999, during a search of the Golden Harvest archives, British writer Bey Logan discovers the original unedited rushes for The Game of Death hidden in storage. Totaling almost 60 minutes, this raw footage reveals the genesis of a very different kind of movie. It is common knowledge within the Hong Kong filmmaking community that Bruce was far from crystallizing his entire concept for The Game of Death. However, an analysis of the completed rushes, coupled with a literal translation of Lee's unfinished script notes, uncovers the following basic premise. 3 warriors are given the task of fighting their way up a multi-level pagoda. To pass from one floor to the next, each fighter must defeat a master of a particular style. During the progression of the battle, 2 of the fighters will be defeated and killed due to their inability to adapt to the differing challenges presented on each floor. The Ultimate Warrior, played by Lee, a fluid fighter unrestricted by an adherence to any one particular style, would, on the other hand, successfully defeat each subsequent master before gaining enlightenment after victory on the uppermost level of the pagoda. For his accomplices in the movie, Lee wanted one, although an ally, to appear slightly devious towards his character, thus creating a counterpoint in the dynamic of the movie plot. For the antagonistic accomplice, Lee chooses James Tien, a regular Golden Harvest studio player, who had starred opposite Lee in 2 of his 3 previous films in Hong Kong. For the second accomplice, a simple-minded but technically excellent martial artist, Lee elects Hong Kong stuntman Che Yun. Although both veterans of the industry, it would be the first time the 2 men had worked together. As for the guardians or protectors of each of the 5 floors, Lee makes his selection from some of the most accomplished martial artists in the world. The first level was to be guarded by Wong Yu-sik, a real-life master of Taekwondo and Hapkido. Lee had worked with Wong before in Way of the Dragon and was very impressed with both his execution and timing. Tragically, due to Lee's untimely demise, the 2 men would never work together on The Game of Death. This rare screen test footage shot by Lee in Hong Kong's New Territories is all that remains of Wong's involvement in the project. For the keeper of the second floor, Lee chooses his real-life friend and senior student, Taki Kimura.
I have to believe that the reason that he asked me to be in that picture was not because I had any ability, but I think he felt that he owed me something possibly, and maybe that was his way of trying to pay me back, because when he called me and asked me to be in this Game of Death, I told him very simply, I said, look at Bruce, I said, I've got 2 left front feet, and I can't move like you want me to, and we have a very strong friendship, but I don't want you to kick my butt and we end up not friends. So I said, just let me sit here and just enjoy all the popularity and the success that you're making. But he said, no, he said, I want you in that picture. And he said, I've already had Danny Nasanto and Jabara in there. And he said, I want you in there to be the praying mantis practitioner that I have to go through in this tower or some kind of a house or something that they were trying to get up to on the top floor. And I guess he put me in a spot where I was maybe more afraid to say no than anything else, and so I finally reluctantly agreed to do so.
For the guardian of the 3rd floor, the Temple of the Tiger, Lee selects another of his real-life students, Dan Inosanto. Not only is Inosanto the most accomplished student of Lee's fighting system, Jeet Kune Do, but also a master of Kempo karate and Filipino eskrima. Inosanto's incredible skill with the deadly nunchaku, a weapon once used by peasants as a rice flail, allows Lee to film the first ever full-on nunchaku battle between 2 opponents, thereby creating another first in the history of action cinema.
I was supposed to play a Filipino from the southern Philippines the way he wanted it. and that's what he portrayed me as, you know. And he was constantly changing the script, but there were so many levels. I think the bottom part was supposed to be guarded by karate people. The second part was to be guarded by another group. It was a Chinese group. I forgot what the style was. I think it was going to be praying mantis. And then they had one more group, and then I don't know if I was on the 4th floor or the 3rd floor because he was constantly changing it. And then the last floor was the style of the unknown, which was played by Kareem. I liked it because it was new for me, and I wasn't into film work, and I've never worked in that atmosphere before, so I enjoyed it very, very much.
To stick fighting and nunchaku combat, Lee would also add grappling and joint locking. Consequently, for the guardian of the 4th floor, the Temple of Gold, Bruce settles on Chi Hon Jae, who at the time of filming was a 7th degree black belt in the dynamic Korean art of Hapkido. For the uppermost level of the pagoda, the floor of the unknown, Bruce decides to showcase yet another of his students, LA Lakers basketball sensation, Abdul Kareem Jabbar. Unlike the previous masters, Kareem fights with an unknown style, symbolizing the highest level of the martial arts. As with the fluid approach demonstrated by Lee's character, this unknown style is a cinematic representation of the ideological essence of Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do came about as a sincere effort to abolish system and style. What he was trying to say is it didn't matter what art you took, as long as you can express yourself. I've always believed that it really, a person, if he's really good and really talented and he's very athletic, it doesn't matter if it's a Japanese system or a Korean system or an Okinawan system or a Chinese system. You're truly expressing yourself. So you don't really fight like the system that you've been brought up. You are expressing yourself, although the system will help in your training.
The fact that Lee's character in the Game of Death would be battling advocates of different styles is hugely significant. He's asking the audience to consider not only the merits of each particular style, but in a broader and more fundamental sense, to evaluate the validity of style itself. Now, with key members of his cast in place, Lee is able to compose 3 groundbreaking fight sequences, which are both fluid, dynamic, and rich in symbolic subtext. As a cinematic representation of his art, it is undoubtedly his finest work. According to Bruce Lee's teachings, when evaluating new experiences, you should look inside and listen to your own true feelings. Your own truths may change with each new experience, but if you never reappraise your values, you could be refusing to acknowledge the benefits that can stimulate change, growth, and improvement. Fundamentally, Lee states, "Your truth is not my truth, and my truth is not your truth."
It's our responsibility to create and leave that impression upon those around us so that they can be better involved and better people themselves because of what Bruce taught us.
In the light of the international acclaim which would have come to Bruce Lee after the astounding commercial success of Enter the Dragon, it is not possible to fully understand in which direction he would have taken the partially completed Game of Death rushes. Bruce clearly stated his desire to return to the project in his diary on the day of July 20th, 1973. What started out as a labor of love may have come under external commercial pressures. We will never know for sure. What is clear is Bruce's intention to educate as well as entertain. Of one thing we can be certain: the finished motion picture would have glistened with the electric vitality and dynamic physical precision for which his work is famous all over the world.